GM, GM. So I'm actually going to look at Pepe today, but one thing I want to look at and explain is look how choppy it gets up in this area, typically, right? I wouldn't be surprised to see something like this, in fact, extended across the later part of the year, mid year, later year, where we are pushing higher, but then we chop around the all time high before a breakout. That to me would actually look like quite a difficult pattern to, like a really difficult phase to trade as it pumps up, drops back, pumps up, drops back, and people look at it rounding out. It's looking choppy, it's looking shitty. So if we do push towards 64, 68, 69, I wouldn't be surprised to see that for months, many, many months. Because again, a lot of people just expect blast off straight through all time high. That could happen, but I would probably lean more towards some kind of aggressive chop around that area. And then in between that, like these are going to be multiple 20% dips, right? Close to 20% dips. Anyway, that's besides the point. Pepe. So I've got a small long open on Pepe already. But in terms of trading it from here, I think the best approach for Pepe is to assume, at least my approach is, I think Pepe is going basically straight to all time high, but I think it rejects from there. So let me just delete all this shit and don't need the bands quite yet. Let's go to the weekly, right? Weekly, Pepe looks great. Had a really nice reclaim after losing these lows, and it's blasting off. This is the part where you want to think, oh, it's gone too high and it needs to pull back and funding's really high. It's a momentum driven meme. So I wouldn't be surprised if it just continues with a few big weekly moves up to there. And from there has a massive correction. Then everyone says it's dead, and then it goes higher later on. That would be something that I would see and expect as a possibility, not necessarily a probability, or not necessarily that's going to happen. Of course, we never know what's going to happen, but I'm trading this and treating it as if there's no pullback. It's not coming back down here. It's not even probably going to go back below 20. Now, obviously, it might do. Like going back below 20 is just here. But I wouldn't expect. I wouldn't be surprised, I should say, if Pepe just continues to follow the hourly bands, right? Because the 4 hour bands, it hasn't come anywhere near, so it hasn't even come towards retesting them yet. It's currently following the hourly trend, and I will trade it as if it's following the hourly trend until something changes. Funding has risen, open interest is up. Yeah, all that's true. But the thing with Pepe is there's very limited spot markets. So it's just the nature of it. It's just a fact that Pepe is heavily driven by futures and leverage. But when it finally breaks out after, like, what is this now? Fucking May until this is almost a year, right? This is a 10-month bottoming range. Now it's breaking out. I don't expect it to pull back. Not from there. I think that 10-month breakout should hold and we just go higher. If it doesn't, if it falls back inside, then cool. We'll play it. We'll play it as it comes from there. But my first main case, my base case, is that there's no pullback, no significant pullback, and any lower time frame dips you get are a buy. Now, looking at it from the perspective of price action, if you look at what was a good one, I think Ave did it in the last bull. I want to show examples of what I mean by this pullback being either no pullback or pulling back after. Yeah, no, not so much Ave. I think Bonk did it actually. Yeah, here we go. Right. So the previous all-time high level becomes the level to target. So if you're looking at Pepe and saying we're here, I wouldn't be surprised if it does this and makes its way all the way to the highs, except doesn't then rip on to new highs. That it makes its way all the way to those highs and falls back, and from there, Pepe goes into like a sideways. That's how I'm looking at it, and that's how I'm playing it. I don't know if it goes beyond that, but I'm going to trade this phase of momentum as if it's going straight to all-time highs with minimal pullbacks, and after that, there's a really significant correction, and after that, we'll reassess and see if we think it's going to go higher. Yeah, I mean, it was here back in May 2023. And that was in a bear market with not as much bullish sentiment and not as much risk taking in general. And right now, do I think it can reach that? For sure. Like I don't see why it couldn't. It's just a meme. It's driven off momentum. It's are people going to buy and then not sell? So I think anyone who's been buying Pepe is not going to sell here. And then what you want to look out for is just leverage shakeouts. Right? When do people get too aggressive on the leverage? And for that, I would stick to, like I said, the hourly bands. Like there's going to be some deep wicks here. There's going to be some wicks that go hunting for stops. I wouldn't be surprised if it pushes and pushes and pushes, flushes like that. And those are the kind of moves that you're going to see on Pepe all the way. It's not going to be straight up. There's going to be deep corrections, going to be short and sharp dips. But every dip should, understand what I'm saying, every dip should get bought on Pepe. If it's got this momentum, if this momentum is legit and it's on its path towards its all-time high, this is now when it has breakaway momentum. Breakaway momentum is the most difficult to trade if you haven't traded with it before. It does not give significant pullbacks because nobody sells spot. The shakeouts that we see are just leverage. So they're short, fast dips. You want to see liquidation spike. You want to see open interest drop a bit. And at that point, it's just a case of get in and get long. So I'm already long from below here on this below on this breakout. I opened a small long before I went to sleep. I set orders at 16 and a half. They didn't get filled. I have a very little long at the moment, nowhere near enough. I opened a small amount because I wanted to have some exposure in case there was no dip. And I was hoping that I would actually get filled at 16 and a half, but didn't. So the difficult situation now becomes how do I fill the rest? And for me, I'll be looking at continuation of this move to add on to it. Probably, most likely, I'm not going to add anything more until I see something like this kind of dip, this kind of correction over here, right? Whatever that may be. Don't know what level that will come from, but I basically just want to see Pepe go higher and higher and higher and then have a sudden flush. And if there's a low time frame signs of dip buying on that, that's when I'll get long. Adding right now to me is there's not great EV there because I do think it goes straight up, but it's also very easy for it to flush down. And if it did flush down like that, I would then buy, right? So for me, I'm not fully long, not as long as I want to be yet, but I do think that Pepe has got the momentum to finally have its run towards its all time high. And it just really simple. The breakout was, you know, that yesterday's candle and today's breaking out from 10 months of ranging. I think this is just time. And it may be, it may not be, but it's definitely the best position it's been in, the best chance it's had to really break away with momentum and have no significant pullbacks. So we'll see. It's going to be, if I'm right, it's going to be a trickier one. When you look on the daily chart, it's just going to really seem like it's up only. But, until then, uh, play it as it comes, focusing on lower time frames. Trend, consolidate, right? So impulse, consolidate up, impulse, consolidate. This big wick doesn't worry me. I think that'll get filled in and broken soon. And yeah, the key word I'm saying here, the key thing I'm looking at is just it's runaway momentum on a meme coin. The momentum when it gets going like this, it leaves you behind, right? The momentum here is just powerful where it just keeps going up and up and up, right? And you don't see any significant pullbacks. If we're looking at it, we're somewhere over here where it's up and up and up. And each of these moves up follows like this parabolic slope. Then you get a sideways correction, and then away it goes and accelerates. This is the typical meme coin, pure momentum driven rally. So right now we're on this kind of slope, this parabolic curve. Where's my curve fucking to? There it is. Right? Take away all this. And some kind of pullbacks can come, but I wouldn't expect them to be much more than, something like this, right? So I'd be surprised if Pepe has any more significant pullback yet. Then there will be one, right? It'll get up to a level where it then goes sideways, right? And then it probably accelerates again. But I still think it's within its first acceleration phase. I don't think it's at the point yet where it's going to have this kind of sideways correction. So if you wanted, you could just wait for that. That will probably take another few days or a week or two to form. I just think that there's higher odds that we don't come back to any of this, and that we kind of sort of grind higher and higher and higher before getting that correction, and that correction doesn't even come back towards this level. As I think the target's clear, it's all time high. And I think that's where most people are going to want to stay long or get long. That's where I'll actually exit my long. So that's how I'm playing it. I'm playing it to the all time high because I think the incentive is there for the market. I think people don't want to sell before that. I think you can have a pretty clear shot towards all time high, which is only really a double from here, 2x from here. And, on a volatile meme coin, that's not hard to pull. So we'll see. We'll see. If you're trading it, make sure you've got a system as well. Make sure that your setups are based on, whatever your rules are. You can't just trade something because I say I'm trading it. You can't just get long because you think it's going up. You have to have setups. And just like I said, I've got some of mine based on that consolidation last night, but very, very little. And I haven't entered the rest. I will enter the rest when my system gives me a setup. That's going to be something like a pullback into the 1 hour bands, and we'll take it from there. Right. So for me, probably when it takes a new high, it gives it a chance to pull back. We see those bands holding, and then I'll add to my long. That's it. GM, GM, GM.